Okay, so let's talk imports. The U.S. imports more than, well, any other country.
That's right. The scale is just
In
enormous.
2022, it hit $3.2 trillion. That's trillion with a T.
And that was up nearly 15% from just the year before. A big
A
jump.
huge jump. And, these imports aren't just optional extras. We're talking essential stuff.
Absolutely. Energy, medicine, metals, advanced technology, things we really rely on every day.
So for this deep dive, we want to figure out where this crucial stuff actually comes from.
Right. Looking at the top suppliers gives you a really clear picture of these global connections.
Exactly. Who are the key players? Why are these relationships so important?
In 2022, the big ones were China leading the pack at $536 billion.
Followed pretty closely by Mexico, $455 billion, roughly.
And Canada at about $437 billion.
And Japan and Germany round out the top five, both around the $147, $148 billion mark.
So a pretty concentrated group at the very top, but still massive numbers across the board.
Definitely. Okay, let's dive into the specifics then. What are we actually buying?
Well, the biggest chunk by far is electronics and machinery.
Ah, yes. That makes sense. How much are we talking?
A staggering $916 billion. Think computers, smartphones, all that industrial gear.
$916 billion. Wow. Just computers alone were what, over $100 billion?
Yep, $108 billion for computers in 2022, and another $116 billion for things like TVs and broadcasting equipment.
So who's making all this tech for us? I assume China's high on the list.
Oh, absolutely dominant.
Yeah.
China is the world's #1 electronics exporter.
Why is that? Is it just cost?
Cost is part of it, sure,
Yeah.
but it's more complex. They have incredibly advanced manufacturing now, very efficient production, huge supply chains,
Right.
and crucially, they've invested massively in infrastructure and R&D. For computers specifically, they supply almost 51% of U.S. imports. Half.
51%. That's a lot of reliance on one source.
It is. But others are important too. Mexico, for instance.
Okay, Mexico, what's their role?
Well, location, 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 right. Being right next door means much shorter delivery times, lower shipping costs.
That makes sense, especially for tech where things move fast.
Exactly. Lots of electronics production has moved there to take advantage of that. We're talking about $39 billion in electronics exports to the U.S. annually from Mexico.
So it's about that efficiency, that tight supply chain integration.
Precisely. It enables things like just-in-time manufacturing, which U.S. companies love.
Okay. What about the sort of traditional tech giants? Japan and South Korea.
Yeah, they're key players too, but maybe for different reasons. Their strength is really in R&D and innovation.
Cutting edge stuff.
Exactly. Decades of investment. You think Sony, Samsung, LG, those big names.
Right. Known for quality and reliability.
Their reputation is built on that high-quality, strict controls, so they cater to that demand for sophisticated, dependable electronics.
Got it. Okay, let's switch gears. How about vehicles? Another huge import category, I imagine.
Huge. $351 billion in 2022.
And that includes cars, trucks, parts, everything.
Everything. And interestingly, the U.S. is actually the world's biggest importer of vehicles and parts.
Really. Bigger than anyone else.
Yep. Just on cars alone, we spent $159 billion importing them in 2022.
Okay, so where are all these cars coming from? Germany must be up there.
Oh, absolutely. Germany is the world's largest car exporter overall, something like 19% of the global market.
Wow.
They're known for luxury, high-quality engineering, BMW, Mercedes, VW.
Right, those premium brands definitely have a big market here.
That reputation for performance and quality drives a lot of demand.
Makes sense. But we import tons of non-luxury cars too. Japan.
For sure. Japan is a massive exporter. Think Honda, Toyota, Nissan. Very popular brands here.
And they have strong ties with the U.S. market, right?
Exactly. Long-standing trade relationships, really well-established distribution networks. Their annual car exports to the U.S. are around $89 billion.
Okay. And what about South Korea? They've really come on strong in recent years.
They really have. A very rapid emergence. Hyundai, Kia, they've captured significant market share. Price is part of it. Definitely competitive, but it's also about offering reliable, well-equipped vehicles. They found that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Plus, trade agreements and good logistics help. Their car exports were about $52 billion a year now.
Interesting. And Mexico pops up again here too.
Yes, but maybe in a slightly different role. Mexico's big advantage is cost-effective manufacturing and assembly.
Ah, the assembly plants.
Right. And the Maquiladora program is key. It lets companies import components duty-free, assemble the cars, and then export them.
So it cuts down production costs significantly.
Hugely. That's why so many auto and parts makers have set up shop there. It makes Mexico a really vital link in the North American auto supply chain.
Okay, that clarifies the vehicle picture. Now, how about something essential for, well, pretty much everything? Mineral fuels.
Ah, yes, energy. A very fast-growing import market lately.
How big are we talking?
$329 billion total. And just crude oil, crude petroleum imports, cost $199 billion in 2022 alone.
Almost $200 billion just for crude. And obviously, this is vital, right? For gas, heating, electricity.
Absolutely essential for keeping the domestic energy market stable and, well, keeping the lights on and cars running.
So where does most of our imported fuel come from?
Number one, by a long shot, is Canada.
Our neighbor to the north.
Yep. They supply over 59% of U.S. crude oil imports, more than half.
Wow. Why so much from Canada?
Several reasons. They have advanced extraction tech, produce high-quality fuels, and crucially, they're right there.
Proximity again.
Exactly. Plus, there's an extensive pipeline network connecting us, and agreements like the USMCA facilitate that trade smoothly.
Okay, so Canada's critical. Is Mexico also a player in fuel?
Yes, definitely. Like Canada, they have significant oil reserves, and that strategic location helps.
Pipelines and tankers.
Right. Efficient transport. And again, USMCA helps strengthen that energy-aid relationship.
And who else is big in supplying fuel? Saudi Arabia.
Precisely. Saudi Arabia is, one of the world's absolute top oil producers. They export very large volumes to the U.S.
And that's based on long-term relationships.
Pretty much. Long-standing trade ties and agreements help ensure that continuous supply flows to meet U.S. demand.
Okay, fascinating. Let's shift to another really critical area, pharmaceuticals.
Vitally important. $324 billion in imports there.
That shows how much we rely on global sources for medicines and treatments.
No question. And the U.S. is the world's biggest importer of packaged medications specifically.
How much is that?
Almost 20% of all global pharma imports land here. In 2022, that was $91.3 billion just for packaged meds.
$91 billion. So who are the main countries supplying these? Germany and Switzerland come to mind.
Definitely. They have a stellar reputation for high-quality medical gear and pharmaceuticals.
Big pharma companies based there.
Exactly. Bayer, Roche, Novartis. Huge names. Together, Germany and Switzerland account for over a quarter, about 26% of that export market. It's like $120 billion annually.
Driven by quality and innovation, I
Yeah,
so.
it's a long history of research, innovation, and very strict quality control. Highly valued here.
What about Ireland? I hear a lot about pharma production there, too.
Ireland's become a major hub, yeah. A lot of that is down to strong government support and favorable conditions.
Like tax rates.
Low corporate tax rates have certainly attracted global giants like Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. Plus, being in the EU is strategic.
And they maintain high standards.
Oh, yes. Strict international quality standards, and they can produce a really wide range of products. Very important supplier.
Okay. And we can't talk about pharmaceuticals, especially generics, without mentioning India, right?
Absolutely not. India is crucial for supplying generic medications.
Affordable options.
Exactly. They provide numerous generics at highly competitive prices. Companies like Sun Pharma, Dr. Reddy's, they're well-regarded producers.
So essential for keeping healthcare costs down for many people.
Very much so. Access to affordable medicine relies heavily on imports from India.
Okay, one last major category to cover, metals.
Right. Number 5 on the list, $196 billion worth.
And this is stuff like steel, aluminum, iron,
Mm-hmm.
the basic building blocks.
The absolute bedrock for manufacturing, construction. Think infrastructure projects, cars, electronics. They all need metals.
Where are these fundamental materials coming from? China again.
China is a huge player here, too. They've invested massively in mining and metal production.
Scale and price.
That's a big part of it. They can produce a huge variety of metals, including things like rare earths, often very competitively, plus great infrastructure, efficient supply chains, government support.
So they're a major source for volume. What about others? Germany was on the main list.
Yes, Germany focuses more on high-grade steel and specialized alloys.
More specialized applications.
Right. Think ThyssenKrupp, Siemens, German producers known for innovation, tight quality control. Their metals are sought after for demanding industrial uses.
And Japan. Also known for quality, I'd guess.
Definitely. Leaders in steel and other metals for key industries like automotive and electronics.
Companies like Nippon Steel.
Exactly. Nippon Steel, Sumitomo Metals. Japanese companies are really committed to continuous improvement, high quality, high performance.
So as we've gone through all this, it just highlights how incredibly interconnected everything is.
It really does. The U.S. economy relies so deeply on these global trade relationships for just so many essential goods.
This deep dive really paints a picture of that complex web supporting, the whole American economy
Right.
and just our daily needs.
Understanding where these things come from give you a much deeper appreciation for those global partnerships. It's intricate.
It is.
Yeah.
And it really makes you think, doesn't it, about potential vulnerabilities. What happens if these supply chains get seriously disrupted?
That's the big question. Resilience is key.
And also, what are the sort of longer-term implications, for driving innovation here at home or building up more domestic production? Definitely something to ponder